Hey, it's Tom from Mystery Game Fight Club, and happy 30th anniversary to Primal Rage. Now, this video isn't anything major, but I did want to look back on the port that got me started all those years ago. Growing up in the 90s, I learned Rage on the Sega Genesis and 32X before heading out to the arcades. Fast forward a decade or three, and Sega diehard Azaxa posted a combo video for Primal Rage on the Sega Genesis. It's a fantastic demonstration of both skill and depth of knowledge. In fact, you should really take a deep dive on Azaxa's channel, especially if you also bleed blue and enjoyed a lot of fighting games from the day. I unironically liked the 32X fighter Cosmic Carnage, but Azaxa tears it wide open. It's a great watch. So I thought for funsies, I would compare the Sega Genesis port to a genuine arcade PCB. Most people who have played this or the 32X port know that it's a blend of the initial arcade release and the updated version 2.3. But if you were to ask me which parts were which, I couldn't tell you. Now that I have looked at it, I've noticed some things, and the more I dug into the weeds, the more I found. So what was supposed to be this cross-platform game of horse just for kicks ended up being a visual explainer on just what on earth is going on here. As I'm reviewing the footage, there's something that stuck out to me. Do you see here? These combos are performed using jump cancels. But here's the thing. Jump cancels were not introduced until version 2.3. And even then, you can only jump straight up. There's a number of them in this video, and it didn't make sense to me if this version is based on 1.7. Turns out, in version 1.7, there's a hop jump you can perform forward or backward, but it's exclusive to two-player mode. This is the jump the Genesis version is using for jump cancels. So you get the jump cancel behavior of 2.3, but the jump itself is from 1.7. How's that for weird? In a demonstration that exploits a known bug, Azaxa pulls out this blizzard combo that recaptures on the ground after one of these jump cancels. The interesting thing is, it probably would be viable in the arcade too, if you could jump cancel forward like this. The other thing I couldn't figure out is why some of these combos let you use more normal hits. It wasn't until I did extensive testing that I finally cracked it. When you hit your opponent in version 1.7, they are pushed back a pretty good distance. This means the combo potential is reduced as compared to version 2.3, which doesn't push back as far. The Sega Genesis more or less kept that same pushback in version 1.7 from the air, but not on the ground. This isn't always the case though, since the smaller scale of the characters messes with collisions, and you can get away with some truly goofy stuff that otherwise would not work. Speaking of stuff that would not work, Azaxa finds some ways to not only dizzy, but re-dizzy opponents repeatedly. Stun damage on the Genesis is very, very broken. And the result is pretty funny, so long as you aren't on the receiving end of it. That's all the stuff that affects everybody equally, but what about stuff that is character-specific? Aside from the issues I just mentioned, most characters are faithful to their version 1.7 counterparts. The crux of Talon in the early days was the ability to cancel the run with normals, up to the maximum of 13 hits. That's not anything new per se, but I was surprised to see it working on the home port. What is different is Talon's Brain Basher. The Genesis version adopts the 2.3 version of the same move, which means you can pull out some combos that otherwise would be exclusive to the update. Chaos is unique among the Genesis roster, which so far has been accurate within reason. As I was attempting to replicate these strings, very little was working correctly. The reason I was able to deduce is because I was testing the wrong version. Chaos on Sega Genesis is the only character that is all 2.3 from head to toe. Everything from his AI behavior, his juggle combos, the ability to open a combo with the flying butt smack, to the minor details, like hitbox adjustments of his normals. Combined with the higher damage of version 1.7, he can quickly make a mess of things if he gets a piece. Technically speaking, Vertigo is mostly accurate to her 1.7 behavior and abilities, but she benefits more than most from the eccentricities of the Genesis port, such as less pushback with normal hits, collision issues that let her get away with more than she should, and massive stun potential. I am unable to directly compare her to the arcade on any version. On 1.7, she lacks the pushback advantage, and on the updated 2.3 version, she lacks the combo strings she could do originally. It's a nightmare scenario where she gets all of her damage from the early version and is inescapable once she stuns her opponent for the first time. It's probably why Azaxa chose her for his speedrun. As to everyone else, there's not a lot to talk about. It's surprisingly similar to the arcade, just, on a smaller scale. So just sit back and enjoy the comparison footage.
Rage.
So again, this was just something real quick that I put together. Thank you again to Azaxa for allowing me to reference her material. It's great work. That's going to do it for me for right now. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you again real soon. Doodles.